Well, good evening, everyone. Coming to you live from our home studio here. Hope everybody's had a great day so far. We're looking forward to sharing this Marriage Monday lesson with you on tonight. Pastor, you had anything?
No, just welcome to the Marriage Monday. Share it. Let people know about Marriage Monday that we're on now. Sorry about no countdown on tonight, but we'll have that fixed next week. So thank you again for joining us for Marriage Monday. We are discussing love, the love style. So here's the book by Drs. Leslie Perot that we'll be using during this study that we're having, putting your love styles to work for you. And so it's a really good study. I encourage you, if you can, go ahead and purchase the book and the workbooks, the workbook for the women and for the men. You can get it as a set if you go to realrelationships.com. That's their website. You can get the set, which is the book and the workbook for the husband and wife. So I encourage you to do that. If you say, hey, I don't want the workbook, but I can do the book, you can get the Kindle version of the book. I believe it's available for like $2.49. So if you want to get the ebook, you can do so as well. So we trust that you would do that, add it as a good resource, because marriage, you want to be building on your relationship, building on your marriage. Marriage Monday is not just for people who say, oh, I have some issues in my marriage. It's for everybody, because you want to make sure that you're fine tuning your marriage, so you want to make sure you're doing that fine tuning. And so thank you for joining us for Marriage Monday.
All right, let's pray. Father, we just thank you for this time of study and time of sharing. We just give your name the glory and the praise in Jesus' name. Amen. All right. So we're talking about uncovering your personal love style on tonight. Uncovering your personal love style. And can't tell where some of you may be tuning in from. It could be on our app, could be on our website, our TV channel. But uncovering your personal love style. Viktor Frankl said, love is the only way to grasp another human being in the innermost core of his personality. So there's a story that they tell here. We're not going to get into that story, but I'm just going to move right to something that's pertinent for tonight. What's your love style? What's your love style? Papa style is what the teachers here, Drs. Leslie. So that's what our little boys call it when they're taking a bath and they slick their hair straight back from their foreheads. It's the way my dad, their papa, wore his hair his entire life. He just combed it straight back. No fuss, no muss. Now, you might say that your love style is just as straightforward. We're not going to, keep you in suspense on this teaching or lead you through a torturous path to make this discovery. You've already seen from the book's cover and the table of contents that we're going to explore 4 primary styles. That's LOVE: leader, optimist, validator, evaluator. That's 4 things we're going to touch on. And next week, we're going to highlight the first 2 things. But we're giving you the opportunity to take a sophisticated look and discover how each of these come through in your own relational hardwiring. Because last week we talked about, how it's part of your DNA, even that your love style is kind of hardwired to you, your personality. So we're going to introduce the concept by presenting you with 2 vitally important questions. And if you can accurately answer each of them, you'll have a pretty good idea of your fundamental love style.
All right. And so there's two questions. And so we're going to start off talking about question number one. And that is, are you project oriented or people oriented? Are you project oriented or people oriented? And so in their book, they talk about that the fact that they live like 4 blocks away from the Nordstrom's headquarters and the flagship department store in downtown Seattle. And so they've had the privilege of speaking there in the boardroom to the different executives and the employees. And they said as they walk through the floors in the office suites, they said they can't help but notice the same sign hanging in different places. And the sign says, the only difference between stores is the way they treat their customers. So if you've done shopping at Nordstrom, you know exactly what that sign means. You know, you see most of stores advertise the quality of their merchandise or the wide selection of their goods, but not Nordstrom. The difference between Nordstrom and most other stores is that other stores are project oriented. Nordstrom is people oriented. Its employees are trained to respond quickly and kindly to customer complaints. And as a result, according to business consultant Nancy Austin, Nordstrom doesn't have customers, it has fans. Mm. So you may be thinking, okay, they got a fan, they have fans, and that's all good and well. But there have to be some people in the organization that focus on the bottom line more than on the customers. And you're right, there are people that are that way, but these employees don't interface much with the customers because they're that way. Their job is to focus on product quality and inventory. They look at everything from the way the lights hit a display of shoes to the way sweaters are folded and arranged. They are aware of traffic flow within the store and know how long a product can sit before being discounted. The fact is, Nordstrom couldn't survive without both groups. No effective organization can. So we need both people-oriented and project-oriented people. We need those kind of individuals. So the question for you is, which camp do you fall into? One is not better than the other. So don't be thinking like, oh, well, I'm a people-oriented person or I'm a project-oriented, I'm better than you. Don't do that. No one, we're just different. You're just different people. The same can be true of your marriage. So you may have project-oriented, you may be people-oriented. While you don't need both approaches for your marriage to work, both approaches are valuable. They're both valuable. So the research reveals that all of us fall somewhere along the continuum. So we all fall somewhere in this continuum. So either you're project-oriented or you're people-oriented. So there's this slide there, so you can see it on your screen. So if you place yourself near the project-oriented end of the continuum, you prize getting things done. That's what you like. You like to get things done. You have an assignment. You probably live by a to-do list. You're gratified by accomplishment. When you get your to-do list and you check it off and you've marked things off like you completed it, that's a sense of accomplishment for you and you're excited. You're happy about that. Whether you're solving a minor problem or moving up in your career, you like that. You stay on task and you're probably likely to be a competitive person. Getting a job done, whether big or small, can take priority over the considerations, including people's feelings. In fact, anything that stands in your way of getting the task accomplished will likely become a distraction. You like concrete objectives. You like to measure your progress. Plainly put, you like to be productive. That's the kind of person you are if you are a project-oriented person. But if you place yourself in the people-oriented end of the continuum, you generally value the emotional well-being of others over productivity. You're good at working with people, and you're friendly. You get a feeling for them early on in conversation and seem to know just what to say. You're rarely forceful or domineering. You're flexible and adapt easily to other people's situations and attitudes. You're diplomatic. You prize consensus and harmony. You're a team player. Nobody would describe you as a loner. In short, you're a people person. And I'll just say, this is Bishop. Bishop is people oriented, and I'm more project oriented.
I'm a little bit of both though, because in
Yeah.
my job I have to do both those things.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can be a mix of both of those.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily you're just one and that's it. You can be a mix of both of those.
Yeah. So, in case you're curious, you know, so well, he's a mix. He's a mix. I can say I'm more project oriented, and so
that means you don't like people. Just so you don't get the wrong idea.
Yeah, that mean I don't like people, but I'm just, that's my end of the continuum, is where I am. I think I have a blend of both of them, but you know, I'm higher on the project oriented side. And so, so are you hardwired primarily for projects or for people? That's a question to ask yourself. Keep in mind that one is not better than the other. You may have qualities from both sides of the continuum. As we were saying, you may have, you know, both sides. In fact, chances are that you are somewhere in the middle. But if you had to choose a side, which one do you lean the most on? You know, where do you lean most often? And I would say most often I'm on the project oriented side of the continuum versus the people oriented side, but I do have both of those. So there's a chart there to kind of help you clarify the distinctions between the two. And so project oriented, driven, measurable goals, you work from a to-do list, concentrated and focused. You delay gratification, you know, you don't have to have it right away. You know, it's okay to have delayed gratification. And sometimes you can make others feel a little bit nervous, and fish or cut bait, you know. People oriented are nurturing, heartfelt connections. What to-do list, you know, like what? They welcome interruptions. They sometimes tend to procrastinate. Make others feel very comfortable, easy come, easy go. So that's more of the people oriented person. Bishop?
Yeah. So question number 2 is, are you fast paced or slow paced? It says here, on the third Monday of every April since 1897, the world's oldest annual marathon takes place in Boston, Massachusetts. That day, an average of 20,000 registered participants wind through 26.2 miles of streets to the finish line at Copley Square. And it's there that you'll find year-round a bronze statue of two animals. One is a tortoise and a hare. One is a hare. Of course, they are there to remind everyone of Aesop's legendary fable. One day, a hare saw a tortoise walking slowly along and began to laugh and mock him. The hare challenged the tortoise to a race, and the tortoise accepted. They agreed on a route and started the race. The hare shot ahead, ran briskly for some time. Then, seeing he was far ahead of the tortoise, he thought he'd sit under a tree and relax before continuing the race. The hare soon fell asleep. When he awoke, he found that his competitor, crawling slowly but steadily, had already won the race. The moral of the story is, it depends on who you identify with the most. If it's the tortoise, you'll say slow and steady wins the race. But if it's the hare, you'll counter, you snooze, you lose. Which one are you? So the tortoise or the hare? You like a fast pace? You like a slow pace? Maybe you're somewhere in the middle. You know, I don't know. Do you approach your day like a long marathon? Do you jump into the day like it's a sprint to the finish? So research reveals that all of us fall somewhere along that continuum as well. Some may be to the far end of fast pace. Some may be all the way to slow pace. Some may be somewhere in the middle. Now, if you place yourself near the fast paced end of the continuum, you probably live your life with a certain level of urgency. You like to get things done yesterday. You don't like to waste time. You're ready to get going. You want to use your time wisely. You often measure success in relationship to speed. So it's, you know, how fast it gets done is how you measure success. when you come home from the grocery store with 8 or 9 bags to bring into the kitchen from your car. How many trips does it take you? Well, if you're fast paced, it just takes you 1 trip. Somehow you figure out how to get all those bags and get them in there real fast and lock the car. Because you put 1 or 2 bags on each finger, you know how it goes. But you can become impatient more easily than others because your days are packed. You schedule things back to back. Others are often amazed by how you can get so much done in such a short time. You run on rocket fuel. In short, you're a fast-paced person. If, on the other hand, you find yourself on the slow end of that continuum, you take your time. You don't overschedule. You like to linger. If you don't get something done today, you'll get it done tomorrow or the next day or maybe next week. Why rush, right? Why let the clock run your life? You take your time. It means that moving. Let me back up. By the way, have you ever heard slow is smooth, smooth is fast? It's a military saying. It means that moving fast or rushing is reckless and will likely get you killed. If you move slowly, carefully, and deliberately, however, you're really moving as fast as you can without needlessly increasing the risk of mistakes. If you're slow-paced in general, you see its application to more than military maneuvers. You move more deliberately. You take time to ponder and muse. You are measured and unhurried. Plainly put, you are slow-paced. We are at the opposite ends of this continuum as well. That's what Dr. Les says here. It says Leslie is more slow-paced, content not to let the clock dictate her activity, taking times for what matters to her in the moment. And he, on the other hand, is definitely fast-paced, striving for maximum efficiency and racing toward deadlines ahead of schedule whenever possible. So you got to think about it. What are you? Are you fast-paced, slow-paced, somewhere in the middle? That's important to know. And so there's a chart there that shows you the difference between fast-paced and slow-paced. And you can see there, fast-paced, divide and conquer, impatient, raring to go, excited and energetic, to the point. Don't just sit there, do something. Slow-paced, unite and concede, patient, ready to rest, steady and stable, roundabout, think before you act. And as you can see, there's qualities in each one of those categories that are good. And you can also see that, if you have some of both of those, that's good too. And so, you have to know what you are and identify which of the two you are.
That's good. And so you have to think about where you are. And so that's going to lead us into the next part of this, is putting the 2 questions together. We want to be able to put those 2 questions together. And so here is a little chart on there, and just excuse me, the heart is supposed to be in the center, but it kind of did a little shifting on there. And so in these quadrants, there's 4 quadrants to help you to get a handle on your love style. So if you can see, if you are fast-paced and you're project-oriented, then you fall into the leader category, the L, the leader, the take charge spouse. And so that would be where you are. But if you're fast-paced and you're people-oriented, you fall into the O, the optimist, the encouraging spouse. But if you're slow-paced and project-oriented, you're E, you're the evaluator, the careful spouse. And if you're slow-paced and people-oriented, you're the V, the validator, the devoted spouse. And so that's how you want to be able to see where you are in this quadrant, this quadrant. And so the 2 questions are posed in this chapter are not the best means of discovering exactly where you might land in these 4 love styles. And truth be told, you're probably at home in more than just one of it. So you're probably not just one thing. You're probably, you live in probably maybe 2 areas of the quadrant, or you can be a mix of them. And so we're just going to look at that a little bit more. But this is to help you to get a big picture of how the 4 love styles come about. And they used to have an online assessment tool that you could take, but no, it's no longer online. You can't do it, and there's no link to it. So I looked on the site to try to see, and so it's no longer available for that. But this will give you a good idea. So we're gonna go to the excuse me. Okay. Sorry about that. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that. So the love chart, putting the two questions together, love. And so you can see the acrostic is there, and you have the column going down for leader, the take charge spouse, optimist, encouraging spouse, V, the validator, E, evaluator, the careful spouse, and the validator was the devoted spouse. And so we're going to just talk about that so you can kind of get a little more, a bigger idea of this. So we're simply presenting the concept. With this in mind, the table will help you compare and contrast some defining characteristics of the 4 love styles. So this gives you kind of like the flavor of the love styles. There's more to say about that, and I have another slide as well. But it kind of just helps you to see, how you may be hardwired for the love. We'll reveal your unique approaches to communication and conflict. We'll also examine how people with each style view sex and intimacy. We'll also talk about the unique approaches they have to free time, a common point of contention in marriage. Most of all, we'll zero in on what people with each style need most from their spouse and how they too often sabotage the very thing they crave. In short, we're going to show you how to get the kind of love you want and how to give the kind of love your spouse wants or your spouse needs, really. So we're going to show you how to enjoy the love you were designed for. So that's what we're going to be doing. And we're going to break it down. So again, over the next 2 weeks, next week, we're going to deal mainly with the L and the O, and then the following week, the V and the E. And so you can see the titles there, the descriptor, the motivator, the need, the fear, and the satisfaction for all of those. And so if you're the leader, you're, the doer, you motivated by power, you need control, you fear failure, and satisfaction, save time. The O is a talker. Popularity is their motivation. They need pleasure. They fear rejection, and their satisfaction is winning approval. The validator is a watcher. They motivated by peace. They need harmony. They fear conflict, and satisfaction is gaining loyalty. And then the evaluator, the descriptor, they're a thinker. Motivator is perfection, need excellence, fear mediocrity, and satisfaction is achieved quality. So that's that. And there's a quote that says, only those who respect the personalities of others can be of real use to them. Wow.
Yeah. And so now the point of this book is not to put anybody, in a box, don't feel bad if you fall on, one end of either of those continuums. Like I said, you're probably a mix of things. And there's no intent to label anyone necessarily. Neither you or your spouse probably fit, exactly in, and completely into one of those quadrants all the time. It would be very rare for somebody to just fit in one quadrant and have no other, qualities of another quadrant. Many people exhibit a combination of styles. As we mentioned, we both have a combination of things. It's not just one thing. And so don't read too much into some of the quick caricatures that you'll hear of the 4 styles. You might be thinking from these descriptions that one is better than another. That's not the case. And so, and we're putting that out there so that, couples don't be like, well, I'm a leader, you're an evaluator, so I'm better than you. No, well, no, that's not the case. That neither is nothing is better than any of the others. I mean, it's whatever you are. Each of them adds value to a marriage, and so it's good to know what your spouse is. It's good that your spouse knows what you are, and you can appreciate what each other where each other falls in those quadrants, because that adds value to your marriage. Each one of those has strengths. Each one of them has weaknesses. And we got to remember, we're all human. So, let's not try to make it seem like, any one of those quadrants makes you perfect, makes you, without flaw or anything. Everybody has flaws. Everybody has imperfections. If you have no flaws or imperfections, I mean, you're ready to just go to glory, I guess. I mean, everybody has imperfections. That's just the way it is. Don't think that one is necessarily easier to live with than another. That's not the case. Everybody adds value. Everybody can create challenges. But once we understand our personal love style and learn the secrets to leveraging, our love style, those challenges diminish. They become much smaller. In fact, the capacity to love your spouse becomes compounded. Someone by the name of Henry Frederick Emile said, "True love is that which ennobles the personality." True love ennobles the personality. And so, again, the love assessment, the style assessment, as Pastor Val said, isn't on the online anymore, and that's kind of like the next thing here in our lesson. So we won't touch on that part, but there are some questions here. You want to go to the questions now?
The discussion
question. Yeah. Okay. So here's some questions for you. So, what do you think of the idea of having a personal love style? What do you think about that? What do you think about the idea of having a personal love style? That's something to think about. Does it make sense to you? Why or why not? Now, I know that I saw somebody in the chat I saw somebody logged on there, so I don't know if you can hear me right now. If you can put something in the chat, you can interact. We're not just on here just for our own benefit. We're here to benefit you. So, if you're on the app, I don't have my phone here with me, but if you're on the chat here on Facebook, you can put something in there. I'm going to go to the next question. If someone was to observe you over the past 7 days, what evidence would they find to conclude that you are either project-oriented or people-oriented? That's important to know also. It's important that you know how you are. And so, you think about that. How are you?
And then I'm saying, and it says, how do you feel about landing in either of these camps? You may feel like, well, I don't want to be in the project-oriented camp. I want to be in this camp. So how do you feel about that? And do you see one as better than the other? And why do you think that? Why do you feel like one is better than the other? As Bishop said earlier, one isn't better than the other. We're all different. We're all, our makeup is different. And so don't try to put a size to it and say, well, I think this one is better. People try to, do that, and don't do that. And don't try to put your spouse in one category either. Don't try to judge them and say, well, I think this is you. As you can tell from earlier, I believe Bishop is more people oriented. Yes, in his job, he has to, do some project oriented stuff as well. But I think primarily he leans towards the people-oriented side.
Yeah.
And so
I would agree. I would agree with that. But I'm not just all people-oriented.
Yeah.
I have to get some things done too. Yeah. So, yeah.
And then number 3, are you more fast-paced or slow-paced? Would your spouse agree with your conclusion? Would they agree that you're fast-paced, or would they think I think you're more slow-paced? And why or why not? Why do you have that conclusion that you're fast-paced or slow-paced? And then be specific. And these are questions for you to think about, and it's also for you to have discussion with your spouse afterwards, so you can talk about it and say, hey, I think you're fast paced. I think you're slow paced. You can just talk about it and have some dialogue. So if you have the workbook, it'll tell you about, hey, let's talk. So it's about having discussion with your spouse as it relates to this. And we're going to get into some exercises in a minute.
And if you have not, well, you can't take the online assessment, but which of the 4 love styles do you resonate with the most and why? Which of the 4 do you resonate with most and why? Which one do you predict your spouse will identify with most and why?
Yeah, because the objective is for you to do the exercise with the continuum and stuff independently and not with your spouse. Like, hey, what do you think I should put? You're supposed to do it individually. Then y'all can come together and talk about how you ranked yourself on the continuums and to see, and then have that discussion and have that dialogue on there. So we're going to move into some exercises. So we're doing good on time today. And so we're going to kind of drill down on the 2 questions is what we're going to do. So I'm going to go back to sharing the big screen so you can see the handout, basically the worksheet. And so if you have the workbook, they will have this in the workbook, and it helps you to refine your answers to the 2 big questions in this chapter. And so it'll give you a more graphic way of looking at your particular love style by leading you through a series of, mini explorations as well of your personality and how it reveals the way you most like to be loved and to give love. So the first exercise here is talking about the 2 big questions. And so again, it's coming to that continuum. Question 1, are you project oriented or people oriented? And so how do you rank yourself on the following scale? So take a moment to list 2 or 3 immediate and concrete reasons why you place yourself where you did. And so what are those reasons? Where did you mark it? What's your reason? What do you use to validate that, to say this is where you've placed yourself on the scale? And again, there's no right or wrong answer here. 50% of the population falls into each side of the continuum. And some people are more extreme than others. So, some people are more extreme, but, some are, one side, so 50% are going to be maybe heavy on one side or the other. And so then later on, what you do is you take some time to talk with your spouse about it and get their feedback on it, so vice versa, get some feedback to each other on, what you feel about, how they are in that section and everything, and why you rated yourself the way you did. And then sometimes when somebody says something to you, they give their opinion, you may start thinking and questioning, how you ranked yourself and stuff. So don't do that. Don't, get all deep into it, but just where you primarily feel that you are. And then the second question was, are you fast paced or slow paced? So you're going to do the same thing for the second question. Are you fast paced or are you slow paced? No right or wrong answers here. Immediate concrete reasons why you picked, the way you did on the scale as well. And then again, have your discussion. All right. So then the next one is that quadrant again. Again, we showed that quadrant earlier. And so when after you've done the previous 2 scales, now you can pinpoint where you land on the following graph. You're going to place a mark on the spot that aligns with your rankings on each of the above continuum. So however you ranked yourself, if you were 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0 in the project oriented, and then if you were in the fast paced area, then that's how you're going to mark yourself on this graph so you can kind of see. So I'm going to take this exercise part off so you can see the whole chart there. But you want to be able to see where you land, and that's how you'll mark yourself and see what quadrant that you fall into. And so once you found your primary location on the graph, you will have you'll be able to see, a little bit more information there. So once you do that, we're going to kind of highlight some things as well with the descriptors. So if you're in the chat, if you can tell us, hey, I've done it already, I'm good, and we'll move on to the next one. So the chart, and you can take a screenshot of this chart if you're watching. Take a screenshot if you don't have the workbook, and that way you can do the exercise. So if you're in the chat,
Sorry.
So you can again take a screenshot of it, and you can have it, so you can do that.
Okay, we move forward.
Okay. So now, again, pinpointing. Once you found out your preliminary, location on the graph, take a close look at the following table that we have on the screen. Again, I had this earlier, but it shows the love, and it has you, okay, if you're the leader, the optimist, the validator, or the evaluator, and it gives you the descriptors, the motivator, the need, the fear, and the satisfaction. So think about how well do these one-word descriptors capture where you have placed yourself. Do the words under your column match you well? Why or why not? Do they match you? Do you agree with it? It's like, hey, yeah, I think this fits me, and if not, why don't you feel like it, characterizes you? Is it something different? How do you feel about that? And then if you have the book in the appendix, it has some more information, and I think I have that on the chart on the next page. I'll show that, and we'll discuss that as well. But look at that again. Take a screenshot if you can of this page so you can have this. So here, pinpointing your love style. So I'm just going to go over this because it'll be very helpful to you, because this just kind of elaborates on some more of those. And so you can take a snapshot of this as well, but this is a more elaborate level of it. And so the L for the leader, their motto is, if it's worth doing, do it now. And at their best, they're goal-oriented, focused, self-confident, they're visionary, and they're hardworking. At their worst, they're stubborn, insensitive, annoyed, hot-tempered, and domineering. The definition of love is being intentional and active about building our future together. Their approach to conflict is, let's find a quick solution. Perspective, the glass is half full as long as I maintain control of it. Oh, the optimist. Their motto is, if it's worth doing, make it fun. At their best, they're fun-loving, positive, persuasive, sociable, and encouraging. At their worst, they avoid conflict, dramatic, off-task, procrastination, and forgetful. Their definition of love is being attentive, and giving each other affection and acceptance. Their approach to conflict is, let's work together to solve this. Perspective. The glass is half full and contains more than you think. The V for the validator. Their motto is, if it's worth doing, we'll do it together. At their best, they're loyal, agreeable, thoughtful, tolerant, and nurturing. At their worst, They're introverted, indecisive, resist change, unenthusiastic, and they are a pleaser. Their definition of love is being reassured that we are on the same team. Their approach to conflict is let me think this through on my own first. They got to get their thoughts together. Their perspective is the glass is half empty, but we'll manage together. And then E, the evaluator. Their motto is if it's worth doing, it's worth doing right. At their best, they're orderly, they're conscientious, they're scheduled, purposeful, and factual. At their worst is they're obsessive, critical, moody, suspicious, and rigid. Their definition of love is being thorough, accurate, and true to our commitments and standards. Their approach to conflict is let me consider this from every angle. I got to look at it from every angle. And their perspective is the glass is half empty and probably leaking. It's half empty, but it's probably leaking. Some of it's getting, we're losing some here. So that's kind of give you a little bit more of a explanation on those 4 love styles. So again, take a screenshot of this as well, and to kind of help you kind of flesh out to see, where you might really be landing there. And so it says they used to have, again, this optional online love assessment that would show you, likely a combination of where you are. But based on the charts and stuff, you should be able to have it and be able to see, okay, this is probably my primary and this is my secondary. So you're not like pigeonholed just into one type, but you probably flow and into more than one category. So do you identify with another column of words in this table? And if so, which one and why? Think about that. If you fall into another one, which one and why do you feel that you fall into that? Again, you could be, a mix. You may not just be in one section. And so if you were to assign a percentage of your personality to each of the 4 categories in the chart where you have already pinpointed yourself, what would they be? And so again, take a screenshot of this and you can say, okay, what would it be? What percentage would you be? And you have a little space there. You can say, what percentage you would be the leader. What would be the O, the optimist, the encouraging spouse, the V, the validator, the devoted spouse, and the E, evaluator, the careful spouse. What percentage? And this is kind of like the preliminary stuff to kind of lay the foundation for this. And we're going to get into it next week. We're going to go and really just talk about the L and the O and spend some time on that next week, which will be really good. So it's good to kind of pinpoint where your love style is. And so as we go and start discussing the different styles, you have a better idea, have some pen and paper so you can kind of jot some notes or go back and watch the video again as well.
Yeah. So this all really, really gets rolling next week as we really get into the love styles. And so we're giving you some time back tonight. If you got any questions, of course, you can always send those questions to us. I can see the app right now on my phone. So I see people there in the chat. So if you have a question there in the chat that you want to put in that chat, you can, because I can see that information right now. So if you do have a question, just put it in the chat there on the app, and I can respond directly to you in the app. All right.
Yeah. And so our next week, again, on Marriage Monday, we're going to be dealing with the L and the O. So we're going to be talking about the L and the O. We're going to kind of break down the leader and the optimist. And so you need to know if you're married to the leader, if you're married to the optimist, We're going to be talking about what that person's deepest needs are, and them at their best, them at their worst. And so kind of like how the chart did, we're going to just go into that a little bit more, and, and how they're hardwired for love. And so you don't want to miss that. And so you want to be a part of that next week as we go into that. And so we'll probably have to move a little fast next week to cover all that we're going to try to cover. Again, we're going to, go over the L and the O, and we're going to do a couple of exercises and have some discussion questions as well. And so, again, you can be able to put stuff, if you're on the app, you can put stuff in the chat, and Bishop can see that as we're going through on next week. And so we can try to answer some of those questions. And then at the conclusion of this study on November 17th, that's going to be the last one for this this study that we're doing. You'll be able to ask questions. So send in your questions ahead of time. If you have questions and stuff, you can email those to contact@thehouseonline.org. You can email those questions ahead of time. And then on November 17th, we'll be able to answer some questions and everything, because you'll get some time back. It's going to just kind of be a wrap up on the 17th. So we want you to, have those questions and, ready if you had some discussions with your spouse about the study, the L, the O, the V, and the E. And just let us know your thoughts on that and how you feel about that as we get to that, to closing out this study.
Yeah. It's a great study. And thank you for joining us on Marriage Monday. And Pastor Val, when she's talking about getting time back, it made me think about daylight savings time is coming up. This is when you fall back. So you gain an hour. That's November the 2nd this year. So just make sure you make a note of that. November the 2nd is when we fall back in time. And hopefully at some point they will stop doing it altogether. And so we just thank God for you being here with us on tonight. But yes, if you have any questions, just send them to us, and we will address your questions.
All right. Well, anything else?
No, that's it.
That's it.
Yeah, Father, we just thank you and we bless you for this time together on tonight. We thank you for the information that we're able to share with married couples and those who will see this recording later. God, we just give you glory and praise, and we thank you for how every marriage will benefit from this teaching. We thank you now in Jesus' name. Amen.